Good morning, Shawn Young.
And good morning, Jamaica. What's happening? Good morning, everyone.
Yes, I don't know why it did that. Yes, we are live
Welcome to
this
Focus Fridays, right?
Focus Friday
Focus
morning.
Fridays, yes.
Yes, and whose imagination are you living in?
Well, I'll start off by saying it's a beautiful Friday. It's been
It is.
beautiful the last couple of days. Very much appreciated these last couple of days of great weather. We got a lot to talk about,
We
and
do.
whose imagination are we living in? What does that even mean?
But you mentioned the weather, and
Okay.
while I know that I like that it's warmer,
hmm
it also reminds me that it's not supposed to be.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
you don't get all into that.
We're not gonna do that today, though. We're not. We'll,
Focus
we'll
Fridays.
we'll do Focus Friday Environmental
Climate
Edition.
change is next week.
We'll do that a
This is
different
on the
day.
next event.
Yeah. But there is quite a bit to talk about for this Focus Friday as we imagine whose imagination we're
hmm
living in.
hmm
Um, where you want to begin with that?
I mean, let's define that first. What does that even mean when we're talking about whose imagination are you living in? What does it mean to you?
Other people make decisions every single day that impact our lives. And if we do not actively engage in who those people are that represent us,
hmm
then we've just handed over our lives to other folks to decide.
I agree. I agree. I'll just only add that everything around us is created is a part of creation, right? Someone created that idea. Someone created from the shoes to the structure of politics, right? It comes from the imagination, the creativity of human beings and structure. So, who imagination are you living in is literally about who has designed the world you're living in, and what say do you have in that design, right?
Yeah,
Do you have any say in that design?
at the local, state, federal, and global level, right?
Yeah.
The news has been filled with a lot. Um, the last, well, if we only go back to October 7th,
Yeah.
right? There's been a lot in the way of loss of life. Um, again, locally across the state,
Yeah.
across the nation, and around the world, we continue to see violence, mass violence,
hmm
and on all types of different levels, which includes what investment looks like
hmm
towards ending violence and,
hmm
and who who is getting support and who isn't.
hmm
I'm being so vague right now. It's great.
No, I mean, but I mean, we need to be able to take it out in a
Yeah.
macro look and then bring it back in. So, where do you want to start in the trajectory? We want to get into the news off the
Um,
top. You want to get into?
I mean,
I mean,
I,
there's a lot going on in the news too. So.
there is, and I think us starting with Maine
hmm
is a good place to start. Um, that we have the most recent mass shooting in the United States,
hmm
and I think I saw that we're over 30 mass shootings for this year.
I saw a number much larger than that, and
Well, so I said
I
over
wanted to
30.
yeah I wanted to fact check it, but there was like the number of mass shootings this year are in the hundreds, right? Are in the hundreds.
Because it depends on whose calculations you're going by.
Exactly,
Right,
but
right.
I mean the number was striking when you think about how much we're not hearing about other shootings in different places, and this one being particularly egregious. Those who don't know, I'm sure many of you already know what we're talking about, but there was a shooting in Lewiston, Maine, this past Wednesday. 16 people were killed, over a dozen people were injured, and it was at the hands of an individual who had an assault rifle, who shot up a bowling alley first, killed I think around 7 people there, and then went to a local bar, and shot another 7 or 8 people and injured others. Right? It's just another. Right now, the individual is still not been caught or seen,
Yep.
and this is just happening in Maine, a place that is historically on the list of the safest kind
Right,
of states
right.
in the country.
Because it can happen anywhere. It does happen everywhere. And this
Yeah.
type of violence, these violent acts with these weapons of mass destruction, um, is something that is now again
Yeah.
a topic of discussion for elected officials
Yeah.
at both state and federal level. Um, Talking about whether or not there should be gun legislation or if we should ban assault rifles. I don't know what Bambi's doing that anyone needs an assault rifle because there's the we have the right to hunt, Second
I mean,
Amendment rights.
those are really
Just
just kind of excuses to continue to bear arms and to continue.
yeah,
I think for the people that produce arms to make the billions and billions of dollars that they make every single year.
indeed.
We are the largest buyer of weapons, producer of weapons. We got more weapons per capita than anywhere else in the world,
Yep.
by a far stretch. And it's like, you know, when I think about this like long history of mass shootings, there's nothing going to change because of this, right? In my opinion, based on what we've seen, children have been killed
It is
in
the
the schools multiple times. You've had people shot in movie theaters. You had people shot all over the place, and then you talk about even the gun violence in the communities that go unreported, and as you know what I mean, in black and brown communities, and not talked about it in the same way. But you have gun violence at a level that is that for anyone of any real conscience like would be kind of disgusted at, and you're just like they're gonna keep doing the same thing because it's profitable to do so.
you mentioned children, and you saw my face as soon as you said it.
Mm-hmm.
It is the number one cause of death for
Yeah,
children is guns.
yeah,
The number one cause for death of children
yeah,
is guns. And then you will have elected officials. Big props to Jon Stewart for the
yeah,
conversations that he has with elected officials at the federal level, calling them on their BS. That they say there are times when the government needs to intervene
yeah,
to protect our children or to protect the people, apparently from themselves. But this is not one of those times.
yeah,
Because there was a conversation about um, ending drag shows in front of children. And
yeah.
so they felt that that was necessary to protect our children. But the number one cause of death for children was not something that needed to be addressed.
Yeah, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah,
Yes.
it's kind of like it really kind of demonstrates, right, when you're looking at it on face value, like what their interests really are, right?
Yeah.
They can be all vehement and come out and have press conferences and do long
Mm-hmm.
speeches on the floor, and they can go after something like drag. What is it called?
The library drag queen reading
Reading
times.
tour or
Yes,
some
the
reading
reading
times or
times.
something like
Don't read to
they can go
children if
through
you're
all
in
they can go off of those,
drag.
yeah, they can do all of that around that, but they
Mm-hmm.
will stand silent in the face of the thing that we know
Is killing
that is
children.
killing, literally killing our young people. So
But here we are in a violent society,
yeah,
right? Where violence is not just a norm,
yeah,
but it is prioritized, but only for certain people,
yeah,
right? Um, Police violence is still a thing,
we have violent
and
culture.
it is accepted, it is promoted. We must protect and support cops to no end because their lives are in danger, and so them becoming judge, jury, and executioner is acceptable. And the amount of money that all levels of government
Yeah,
spend on weapons, bombs, drones, tanks inside police departments. So, local, state, federal, and globally,
yeah,
there is a prioritization of weapons of mass destruction, and there are women and children dying everywhere.
yeah. People are dying everywhere at violence, and if you're thinking, you're talking about globally and the violence that we're seeing globally, that's a segue into our next topic of discussion, and we're talking about the conflict, the war, the
Genocide,
genocide,
ethnic cleansing.
that's happening in Palestine and in Israel as we speak. So everyone knows October 7th there was an attack from Hamas in Israel that killed over 1,000 people, and over 200 people were taken back
Hostage.
into
Hmm.
taken hostage back in to Palestine. Since then, Israelis' response has been to bomb and bomb and bomb to the
Weeks.
point where we're now on October 27th, and they're now, I guess, setting up for a ground offensive.
Right.
And the numbers that are coming out of the people that have been killed to this point are upward around 7,000 men, women, children, people in Palestine,
Civilians. They're not
civilians,
targeting
and
military bases or locations. They're killing civilians.
yeah, I mean, I think that whatever the strategy has been is to annihilate any possibility for any kind of I guess redress from Palestine. But it's just
It's
this is a
terrorism.
long standing, I think. Um, I don't know how do I even describe it? Would you describe it? I mean, it's been 1948 since it began,
Right.
right?
So there's, I
British
think,
control a lot, yeah, and then
it's
the removal of Palestinians from land.
the current conversation starts on October 7th.
Hmm.
The media said a violent act happened on October 7th. This is true. That is factual. The loss of life is something that is not acceptable. It did not all start on October 7th.
No.
And the violence, if we're going to do the, well, this is in repercussions for this, we got to roll back
Hmm.
to the displacement and intentional occupation of Palestine.
Hmm.
That the first act, a decision that was made not by Palestinians and not even completely by the Israeli government at the time, but others of interest
Hmm.
said, Jews are being persecuted. We should put them somewhere. And they made a decision about where that place was with no consideration for the people already living there and fully supported the occupation of a land, a colonization
Yeah.
of a land to displace and move out people from their homes. Literally, people living in a house were forcibly removed
Yeah.
and a new family put in.
Or entire villages razed to the ground in
Right?
order
So
to build up new kind of settlements for Israel. Yeah, for Israelis. Yeah.
the problem I have is this violence begetting violence begetting violence. That it is the cycle of this violent thing happened, so this violent thing happened, on top of Israel's military force,
Hmm.
backed by the U.S. and other significant governments,
Hmm.
absolutely dwarfs the Palestinian, just Hamas, because let's also remember that not every Palestinian is a part of Hamas, the same way that not all Jews are in support of the Israeli government and their actions,
Hmm.
right? So there are Israelis, Palestinians, Africans. There are people of Christian, Jewish, and Muslim faith who are all being impacted because of this. And they are violent acts that are supposedly justified,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But right now, the weeks of bombing, the the mass genocide of of people is deplorable and unacceptable. And there is a small fraction of people who are making those decisions, and they were elected to office,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And I feel like I definitely want to get us to that point because we are coming up on elections here in New York.
Hmm.
I don't think you and I in a half hour are gonna solve the horrible things that are happening over in
No.
Israel and
No.
Palestine. We need to be aware of how it is directly connected to us. Because how many millions, billions of dollars?
Billions.
Billions of
Billions.
dollars
Billions every year.
in military aid,
Hmm.
weapons, violence, right?
Hmm.
So we're upset that there was a weapon of mass destruction that killed people in Maine, but we're going to send weapons of mass destruction to Israel to continue to murder civilians.
Well, I think that
I don't
I think
understand.
yeah, I think that it's not about. I think violence is acceptable when it's being done by the party that you support. That's
Yeah.
just kind of what it is. Violence is an acceptable act, and about context, right?
Yeah.
Before we move right into what we got a vote. We have voting
Yes.
that is
We have
needed coming
elections.
up. But I
Yes.
just wanted to. So that's those are two pieces. The third piece is I just wanted to acknowledge a bit of what's happening behind the wall. Recently, Green Haven Correctional Facility in New York State was put on lockdown for reasons that I still do not know to this date. They were on lockdown for, I believe, a couple of weeks. We've got word from guys inside about kind of what was happening and the conditions that they were facing. I sent you some information last
Right.
night, a video of
Protesting inhumanity.
a brother like really reaching out. He was on a call, it was recorded, reaching out to kind of describe that some of the brutality that was happening to the folks inside, and you have folks being locked down for 24 hours a day, not being let out at all, barely being fed, having whatever property they had destroyed, and food at packages coming from family members being either stolen or destroyed. And like I don't know if many of you really understand what it means to be under that kind of oppressive, completely under control of other individuals in that way. But it is so traumatizing and terrifying for everyone, and if for everyone involved in that. It's like family members are being hurt because their loved ones are being hurt,
Yeah.
right? Individuals are going through all kinds of hell and have no kind of protection because people really honestly don't care. I looked at some of the many people don't
The
care. I
comments.
looked at some of the comments that you saw on the post, and people were like, well, tough it out, you'll be okay. Like it's
Yeah.
like you were able to do this and that, and it's like we do. And this goes back to, I think this covers like there's thread lines back to the other two topics that we talked about, right? It's like people will justify all kinds of things to other
Yeah.
human beings, right? And when you other another human being, when you remove or diminish a person's humanity,
Yeah.
right? Then you're capable. I think James Baldwin says this too. Like you're at that point, you're capable of murder,
Yeah.
right? That's a proclamation of genocide. That's a proclamation of death. And when you look at what's happening in Green Haven and being allowed to happen in Green Haven, and then there being no real kind of media attention or community attention about what the brutality is there because it's acceptable.
Acceptable acts of
Yeah.
violence against individuals who are deemed what? They're deemed what? What's the word?
The category of the irredeemable. That's actually a phrase
Yeah.
that I got from my brother Rodney Spivey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's where we are, right? Because this is an entire conversation about acts of violence,
Yeah.
who they are perpetrated by, who are the recipients, when it's allowed, when it's considered not okay, and thoughts and prayers go out, which human beings, because they're all people. The one thing that every single individual has in common, they are all human beings. Whether we are talking about the individuals that are over in Israel and Palestine, the individuals who are currently in Green Haven,
Yeah.
the ones that are in Maine, people right here in Schenectady, all human beings
Yeah.
that are being impacted by acts of violence. And again, there are people who sit in positions of power who decide when, where, how, and what resources they get or not.
Yeah. And just like back to like the very beginning of what we're talking about, like whose imagination are you living in?
Yeah.
Like who created the system that you're a part of today and accept wholeheartedly without question, right? Who created it? Like I think that one of the most powerful things that anyone can do in their own personal life is to like take stock of themselves and the condition they sit and the environment that they're in, right? Being
Yeah.
able to kind of understand that this is the system that I was born into and told that these are the standards of what should be or shouldn't be. You have an obligation, I think, to question all of that,
Absolutely.
right? And not many people do. I don't even know if we're really educating enough in our for our young people about what it means to actually challenge what those standards are, because change is inevitable for all of us, right? Change in life, like we get older, right? We
Yes.
hopefully get wiser, right?
Hopefully we
Like
get
change is
older.
inevitable, and then as the youth come in, they're able to, you know what I mean? Either they are following the models passed down to them, which is the conservative. That's why you have a conservative party. They are conserving something, or they seek to change those things, right? And that's a little bit black and white and overgeneralized. I get it, but I think that not many, not I think that we don't often, as a community, understand our ability, our power to change the conditions in which we are all living. We just accept the norm for what it is, and have little effort
Yeah.
in the fight for change. But one way we can change some things is to vote. And
But my one vote doesn't matter. I'm only one voice.
yep,
It doesn't matter if I go to the polls because it's going to be the same anyways.
yep. And
Listen,
how many people ain't voting?
I'm saying it in a mocking voice, but I do fully understand. We've talked to probably thousands of people,
Yeah.
and we've heard the whys. Even if they're registered to vote and they don't go and vote, we've heard the racialization, the disenfranchisement that exists intentionally. So they don't want you to vote. They're not making it easy. They're not supporting you to be like, this is a great idea. You really should go and vote because, it's not in our schools to the extent that some other things are. It's 13,000 people, approximately, a little bit more, in the city of Schenectady are eligible to vote but are not registered to vote. As a matter of fact, when I was walking here today, someone saw me.
You registered someone to vote on the walk here? He's a bad joker, man.
So
really?
He saw the shirt and he was like, "Hey, what are we talking about today?" I said, "Oh, you're gonna have to watch the live to find out." And then I immediately said, "Are you registered to vote?" It gets better. He goes, "Well, no, I have a felony."
Oh,
doesn't mean you can't register to vote.
That's
right? Doesn't mean, but that was his first thing. Oh, well, I can't.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, so one, watch the live. Two, send me a message. I'm going to send you the link so you can register to vote because tomorrow's the last day. And you have
to register
to vote.
For the upcoming election. Yes.
And which matters locally for city councils and mayors and DAs in certain areas. Not here. Kearney's not up yet. But our mayor, our city council, in other places, there are towns and villages that have elections as well. So across New York State, there will be local elections.
Yes.
That decide what happens at the county jail.
Yep.
Right? What that funding looks like, what the bid process looks like for the healthcare that is lacking inside the county jail across the state, right? Those are local decisions. What programs and services will get funded? How much the budget for the police department will be? Huge topic in Schenectady, which the current proposal is an increase, which it has been every single year, an increase to the police department.
But and also where investments are going to go in the community period.
Yep.
What places are going to get investments and what places are not. The size of the investment, etc. All of those things are in the power of folks that are actually running for election, and that's why your vote matters. We oftentimes, and I've talked to you about this and others, we are very adept as a community, mind you, of talking about the problems. Right? We always talk about the problems. We see the problems. We talk about with our friends. We talk about with our neighbors. We talk about with our coworkers. Our families. But beyond just talking about the problems, if you really want change, I think we got too comfortable with just being able to identify problems. You got to identify problems, but if you're only going to do that, what are you really doing, right? So it's this having a solution, knowing who is running for office, knowing what those folks do in that office and how it impacts your day-to-day life, right, is extremely important to the changes that you want. You have to take those steps. We're here as a resource to try to give you as much information as possible. It's still on the community, right? It's still on all of us to kind of figure out what it is we want to do. I know it works. It's still on all of us to figure out what it is we want to do collectively in our communities.
And who we want to represent us, because it's only hundreds of votes
that often are the difference.
That determine the winner.
Yeah.
So let's say the 13,000 people don't register to vote, but 1,000 like-minded individuals who want all of us to be able to live in our homes and care for each other and care for ourselves and our
Yeah.
children have the best possible education, and all the things that we've been talking about for a very long time. And they find a candidate that says, here are the policies I'll literally put in place. They could win.
Yeah. They
So
could win just support. It doesn't take much,
it
but it
doesn't.
does take getting involved.
How many people showed up at the school board election 3 years ago?
That's a good question.
Maybe 1,200.
That's out of all the people that are eligible to vote.
Out of there are more than 30,000 individuals registered to vote.
Yeah.
About 25% in our poorest communities actually show up to vote.
Mm-hmm.
And regular elections.
Mm-hmm.
It's far less for school board,
Mm-hmm.
which is matters to me because I'm a school board member. So, you know, a couple thousand people decide how we're going to spend millions of dollars for our children.
Yeah. Yeah. The most money we've ever had in a school district because of your work and others' work and making sure
Yeah.
we're fully funded.
Yep.
We need to see, I think, change that equates to what the funding is now, and I don't know if that's happening, but I know that I know where to go find out.
Yep.
That's a fact.
Nowhere to
I know.
go.
So I just want to, before we keep,
Yeah.
we've talked about a lot of things. I just want to shout out that really great event that you facilitated at Sikkim last Saturday. We had a really great time with the community.
Yep.
Like we've had, dozens, like multiple
Change.
dozens of people come out. Like I don't know, was it 50 plus adults, 30 plus children come out to our event around home ownership and civic engagement, human rights, and just looking at kind of what in housing rights and looking at kind of what resources are available from in our local community.
Yeah.
You did a great job facilitating that.
Aw,
I really
thank you.
appreciate it. Sikkim, great host.
Absolutely.
Amari and his whole crew,
Miss Pearl.
Auntie Pearl, loving Auntie Pearl and what she was able to kind of, what she always does when we show up, just show love and
Yes.
just make sure there's space for us. It's a great community space. And you did a great job, man. I
It
really
was
appreciate it.
solution driven.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So we're talking about there's violence that happens. There are people that make decisions about how we're going to create change to have safer communities.
Yeah.
There is bias about who gets to have a weapon and who's worthy of dying. And there was already research done that says when you have an increase in home ownership, you have an increase in safety in the community.
Yeah.
So what did we do?
That's right.
We got the information about how to increase home ownership as well as what are the supports for renters, tenants in the city, and gave it directly to the community, right? So that's what community looks like. That's what investment in community
right.
looks like. That's what creating safe communities looks like.
That's right.
The mayor came out and gave the welcome. Gary McCarthy came to the All of Us event and gave the welcome. Marion Porterfield had a litany of information for current homeowners about how to keep your home because you can't just buy it.
Yeah.
You got to be able to maintain and keep
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
right? Plus, there was information for tenants who are renting and renters' rights and all of those things that can change the lives of people today.
That's right. That's right.
So it matters who's in those seats.
That's right.
It matters what policies are written. If we're looking for safer communities, there are solutions, and there are solutions in our communities. Folks do bitch and complain, but they often also have solutions. And that's what we're here for. We're here for solutions. We're here for more folks to be registered to vote, register today, register tomorrow. There's an email blast going out later today. So if you're not already part of the All of Us email list, click the link that's in the comments, sign up to be a part of our email list, get it directly into your inbox to be able to register to vote today. We did have people register to vote at the event last Saturday, which was amazing. Bernice Rivera, I'm channeling Bernice right now. It's amazing. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to not just talk about the problems, but also continue to do the thing that you will not let not happen. Double negative. Find solutions.
Find solutions.
Find solutions.
And the solution is us, right? And I don't mean us as Jamaica.
No,
I mean
but
us.
he does.
All of us as our community. Like it really is us. We have the power for change. Remember that. Whose imagination are you living in? should be living in yours.
That's right. And for
Right.
that to happen, we need to ensure the folks who are making decisions for us
Mhm.
hear from us, represent us, and are supporting the lives of all of us.
That's right, Jamaica. Another Focus Friday.
Another Focus Friday.
Peace.
Y'all have a good day.